our shows are very expensive. So, you know, I don't. Let me try to get some light.
Yeah, just that lighting grid you rent alone has got to cost a fortune.
Yeah, yeah. The lighting alone costs a fortune. The setup costs a fortune. The wrestlers. I mean, it's all the travel we have on those shows. They're nuts. So they're just they're way. I mean, if you know we're always we built the show a little probably too big, you know, because we're trying to offer something that the other companies don't offer. And PWG has a lot of fly-ins, but they don't pay anybody, you know. So PWG is just like, you know, everybody's trying to get a name off of there, so they're able to give guys, and we just, we get crippled with shows if we don't draw, we're hurting bad, you know. So, but we'll be back one way or another.
Yeah, I'm sure like you got a good buzz about the company and everything. It's just hopefully everything will be back to normal.
Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be one of those we're just gonna play it by ear, figure it out.
At least you got MLW.
Yeah, yeah. That'll keep me alive, and that'll keep me on the board playing. You know, so
All right, well, if you're all set, I'll get into it. I got about a page of questions, mostly fan questions.
okay, cool.
You had a good reaction. I mentioned it on YouTube. I was going to interview you, and yeah, you got a bunch of questions. So,
Cool.
and just so I don't screw up the pronunciation of your last name again, it's Joseph Samael.
Samael.
Samael. Okay, I'm terrible at pronouncing stuff.
Yeah, no big deal.
This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com. And as a special guest today, I have a man who used to be known as the Almighty Sheik. He is now known as Joseph Samael. He is the leader of Contra Unit, the leader of War Beast, and he also helps put together PCW Ultra, which is, in my opinion, the best independent company in the United States. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. It's a hell of a introduction. Thank you very much.
Well, you got a lot of fans all over the world, especially Australia. I had numerous questions from you or for you today from Australia. So you're getting known. MLW is getting bigger. You're a big part of MLW. What's the status of MLW now? I understand you took it over, Contra Unit. Uh,
It's ours. It's ours for the taking. Everything is pretty much on hold, just like everybody else. You know, I don't think anybody wants to jeopardize the health of the wrestlers, jeopardize the health of the staff, or anything. So we're just trying to figure out, just like everybody else. You know, we're whenever the dust settles and the chips fall. Then the opportunities will come to light, and we'll all know kind of more when that happens. Just like everybody else, we're all waiting too, you know. Just trying
Now,
to
what's the
play.
status on this takeover? It was all over the news, I think, today and yesterday. Uh, Seems like a pretty good thing for you in the Contra unit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's nice to be. It keeps me on the board, keeps me in play. It's nice to be involved in the biggest storyline in the company. Obviously, that's what you want as a performer. And as a heel, MLW is a heel company. You know, the court's a heel booker, so it's a really great spot for me. I think that as the programming continues, there's a lot of stuff we can do. It's a good explanation for everything that's going on. It ties the story in a way that's not insulting. So yeah, so it's pretty interesting. It's going to be. I know that they're going to start using old programming. You know, they have a library with CM Punk and Mike Awesome and Dusty and Terry Funk and on and on and on. So I know that they're going to be playing those. I'm guessing that they're going to play some sets with like the best of Contra, the best of uh, the Heart Foundation, and on and on. So I think it's going to be really great programming. Some is going to be current, and obviously most is going to be old library stuff. There's not much more you can do. Nobody can tape right now, and like I said, we're not trying to jeopardize the health of the wrestlers and the staff at this point. So we're just all waiting to go back to work, and everybody's hard at work and keeping everything moving while we can't work.
And of course, Jacob Fatu and you are tag team partners, and he's one of the big, hottest independent stars around these days. How did you first meet him, and any favorite match that you've had with him as a partner over the years so far?
Yeah. So I met Jacob, I think maybe in 2016, maybe. Yeah, 2016, maybe March, April, something like that. And I just found out about him as we were starting PCW Ultra, and he wanted to come work for me. I wanted him to come work for me, and we tried him out, and he was incredible. So we kept him on the roster. Me and him got on really well. He's coming from an old school family. I'm very old school. I was taught the old school way. So our ideas meshed, and so it's just been we just been killing it since we got together. I guess my favorite, I have a few favorite matches, but I guess the favorite one would be against the Lucha Brothers. It just had such a big fight feel. It was just such a great match. The crowd was divided. I don't necessarily look at matches as far as moves and stuff like that. As long as the finish is perfect and the feeling of the match is perfect, it was the most fun I've had in the ring in probably my 22 years. It was just one of those matches you go in and you could cut the tension with a knife. Just had a real big fight feel and everything. So I was real happy with that one for sure. It was great. And the finish went off without a hitch. Whenever the finish goes off perfectly, it's just very gratifying as a performer.
Did you see the recent Dark Side of the Ring that his father was featured in, the Tonga Kid?
Yes, I did. Yeah, yeah, the Jimmy Snuka stuff. That was, and I think he kind of smarten the guy up without knowing it, on that one part. Yeah. So yeah, it was crazy. Those stories are, that show is, I mean, it's hard because I do like the show and I do watch the show, but it's hard as a wrestling purist and somebody that really loves the business. It is a sensationalized show. So they do show the warts of the business rather than, the good stuff. But it's any sort of press, good or bad, is good for the business, I'd imagine. I don't know, but yeah, those have been very interesting to watch.
And one of the fans wanted me to ask you if you had any road stories about Jacob Fatu and you.
We live in different places, so we usually fly everywhere that we go to. So we're not usually driving on the road, which is where most of the fun happens. I mean, hotel rooms and stuff, we always room in like for MLW and things like that. I mean, the only thing is Jacob snores like a dinosaur. That's about. I mean, I'm pretty boring. I don't go out partying and going crazy or anything and nothing like that. I pretty much go to work and get back to the hotel and go to sleep. And the next day I usually have to do a lot of TV stuff and interviews and things. So I'm usually just to bed. I'm just mainly concerned with, getting a workout, getting food and getting sleep. So
Did they ever ask for your help at all with booking ideas in MLW, since you're known to have a pretty good mind for booking?
yeah, I since the beginning I've been used for my ideas in the company, and it's a spot I'm comfortable in. I'm used for ideas like that to come up with things. I'm used for agenting matches and just you've seen me in action before. You've seen my company. You've seen me run stuff and everything. So I mean, I've got a good head on my shoulders for pro wrestling, and I know how to put it all together in a very respectable way as far as for the business. So yeah, so I'm used in that capacity for MLW. In fact, I'm sometimes I'll be there. I'll be a manager. I'll be a wrestler. I'll go out for multiple segments. I'll be agenting 5 or 6 matches. It's it's pretty nuts. Like, but I do love to submerge myself in wrestling. And I mean, I could be doing something else. I could be digging ditches somewhere. So I'm not complaining about it. I'm pretty happy there.
And yes, you were NWA champion. You've had a very successful career, but it seems like you're actually peaking now in your career as far as being known worldwide, and you got a good role on MLW, and your company is doing great. How long have you actually been in the business for? And would you agree that this is one of your peaks in your career?
Yeah, I've been in the business for 22 years, and I think, and I agree, this is a peak. I mean, I just keep having more acts after. I keep reinventing myself, and this one has worked out the best. But I think the reason why this has worked out the best is because it's the strongest TV I've done. When I first started, I was on Puerto Rico TV, and that was really strong on the island. But the territory was in its final days, and wrestling was in the Attitude Era. So people weren't really paying attention to Puerto Rico. Then when I left Puerto Rico, I did some regional TV in the southeastern region of the United States on Sunshine Network for MXPW, and that was it was watched in the southeast, but it wasn't really major. And then I just traveled and globetrotted for a long time. I did stuff in Japan. I was on Samurai TV and stuff like that here and there, but spotty. But this television seems to have the furthest reach. And also now internet television is not frowned upon like it used to be. So this being so accessible on YouTube and so many wrestling fans watching YouTube, it even makes the television stronger. So I would say that that this TV combined with the YouTube is most likely stronger than anything even back in the day, especially regional TV. It's I've noticed a huge spike in my business. I've noticed a huge spike in merch, and that's all about people knowing who you are. So if they don't know who you are, they're not buying your stuff. So I've noticed huge spikes over my time in MLW. So yeah, so I'm really happy on multiple fronts with the company for sure.
And I understand there was somewhat of a riot in Chicago not too long ago in MLW, and the Contra unit was the ones that actually caused it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when I was younger, I would have people attack me and things like that, and I would be able to rile up a crowd. I was able to spill a crowd over, but I didn't have that control of a crowd that I do now. 22 years, and I think 10 years in the business, you really start to get a grasp of what's going on. I know a lot of guys a couple years in, they think I thought too. I thought I knew what I was doing too, but about 10 years in, you start to really get a grasp on what's going on. By your 15th year, for me anyway, you start to really become a master at your craft. 20, 22 years in, I think you have a very good control over the people. You know how to bring them up, down, sideways, left, right. So that was 100% orchestrated. It was our first night in, and I just knew that we had to spill those people over. I knew that we had to make a statement that night. So I just pulled out a few of my tricks that I knew would work, and they did. And it was a great night. The people were in Chicago are really, really passionate. So they're a real great crowd to work in front of, and they're a great crowd to manipulate, not in a bad way, but you know what I mean. So to manipulate, to kind of get what you need out of them. So yeah, so it was in Chicago, and it worked out really, really well. The video of it's fantastic, and Cornette's on there as commentary. It's a really good piece of film.
How did you like working with Cornette when he was with MLW?
You know, a lot of people don't like Cornette, I get along with him really, really well. I respect the architects of this business, and he has a lot of knowledge. I noticed that he would help guys with promos, and certain guys didn't like him, and they wouldn't show up for it or something like that. Or, man, if he wanted to help me with the promo, I would be right there. I liked him a lot. I thought he was really, really great for the company. He's a cantankerous guy. He's bitching all the time, but that's him. He comes as advertised. I mean, you know what you get with him. So he didn't bother me any. I welcomed him there. And I had some good times with him, and I learned from him, and I wish he was still there. I would love to work with him again too.
What did you think about that whole controversy with NWA? Because I know for your PCW Ultra show, you probably review it before you put it out to notice if there's any problems with it. But I guess NWA, I guess, put this video out that Cornette, I guess, said something that some people were offended by.
Yeah, I think Cornette comes as advertised. I think he's from Kentucky or wherever he's from, and he's an older guy, and I think he says things that are off color, as far as like a guy from the South will say, "Oh, that's hotter than a freshly fucked fox in a forest fire," or some weird shit. You know what I mean? So he's got these all these weird things he says. I never knew him to be a racist. I can understand how that would get blown out of proportion. But as far as them not pulling it, I think it was a huge blunder, and I think that they put it all on him. They put the heat all on him. I'm not a huge fan of the NWA. I've got a lot of bad history with them, and I don't know. I just think if I think everybody should have took the hit. I think they used him as a fall guy and said, "Hey, that happened." Everybody got mad about it. He did it, and they pushed it all off on him. I think there was a more diplomatic way of handling it. Also, I think you run the risk of really stunting your creativity when you listen to the fans in that sort of a way. Like, pro wrestling has always been where the booker steered the ship. Now we're getting into this politically correct era. And look, I've got nothing against that. I've got gay friends. I've got friends of all races, colors, creeds, sexual preferences, whatever. But I do think that you run the risk of stunting your creativity when you listen to the fans, and the fans dictate what you're gonna do. I think pro wrestling has always been it's always been that type of entertainment where it had a lot of shock value. I mean, look at Dark Side of the Ring. I mean, it draws all the wrestling fans. Pro wrestling has always been like that. They've always pushed the envelope, and they've always done controversial things. It's just a different age now. So I think pro wrestling and the way the world is today, I think they're just trying to meet up now. It's just a weird thing. But at PCW, we don't really do anything super controversial. We just pretty much promote wrestling in a sports like manner, with entertainment as well, obviously, because it's got to be entertaining. But we don't really do anything that would get that sort of backlash or anything like that. But we definitely steer the ship. We definitely take the fans on a ride, and we do it in a way that we haven't gotten any backlash yet, but I don't think I would ever do it any other way. I mean, that's the way you run pro wrestling. And also, you can't have multiple bookers. There has to be one Caesar. There has to be one guy that says thumbs up, thumbs down, and gets the ideas pushed through. I think that's a problem that a lot of the larger companies are going through now. And they just don't have one guy running the show, and it just makes for schizophrenic booking, and it's just a really strange time in the big leagues. Seems like the underbelly is bubbling up and more successful than as far as buzz and people giving a crap about it. It seems a lot more successful than the larger companies now, and that's never been.
Now, you mentioned NWA. Someone wanted me to ask you on here, being a former NWA world champion, if they offered you a match against Nick Aldis, which would never happen for political reasons, would you accept?
Well, they did offer me something when they first came back, and they just wanted me to bend so much, and I just, after the first couple conversations, I knew I wasn't going there, but there was a few, this regime and the regime prior all wanted to do, business with me, but they just, I'm a businessman, and I'm a pro wrestling head, man. I've got taught the business from Kevin Sullivan. I've learned from the architects of this business. So, I'm gonna do what's right for business. I'm not gonna get led by the nose by somebody who doesn't know more than me, So I'll do business with anybody, but I'm going to do what's right for me and my business first and foremost. And that has nothing to do with wins or losses. That has to do with a lot of different things, money especially.
Yeah. Now, you've worked with the Von Erich boys, the latest generation, Kevin's kids. How is it being in the ring with them and working with kids from a family as legendary as the Von Erichs?
It was great. I mean, they fight. I mean, you got to beat on those guys to get them to stop, and they don't stop. I mean, they keep coming. Everything you've ever heard about the Von Erichs of old, these kids bring it just like them. I mean, they just go, 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 go. It was fantastic working with them in Texas, Dallas. That was a it was fan. I mean, it was really fun because a lot of the old fans from the Sportatorium were there, and Kevin Von Erich was there, and he got involved in the match, and it was just fun to see the old fans and some of the old world class championship wrestling personnel, and wrestlers and staff coming out to the show. I'm a student of the game, so all that wrestling history is great to me. I love seeing it. I love being a part of it. I love wrestling. I love saying that I wrestled the Von Erichs in Dallas. I think that's a great match, a great feather in the cap to have. So, I love to wrestle with those guys again. I don't think you've seen the last of Contra Unit and the Von Erichs, that's for sure.
What do you think about the future as far as their popularity goes? Are they still at the very beginnings of it? What do you think is going to happen, judging from the talent you've seen?
Well, I think that today's wrestling landscape lacks real baby faces, and I think that they are undoubtedly real baby faces, through and through. I mean, in and out of the ring. So I think that they have a huge upside. I don't know how that translates beyond Dallas, in the Texas area, because I know that they're very popular in Texas. And I've seen them, be, to get great reactions. Not, I don't think that their New York reaction is the same as their Dallas reaction, but I think that they have a huge upside, and I think they're students. I think they're willing to learn. I think they're coachable. I think that they have a good foundation right now. I think they have a great family heritage. I think they have a lot of good people in their corner, and I'm sure that they're going to have a lot of good stories, and there's going to be a lot of great stuff written for them. So I think, yeah, you're going to see them for quite some time, and I don't think they're going to go anywhere. I think they're very comfortable. I think there's certain guys in MLW, them especially, that are very comfortable in MLW. I think MLW understands, uh, you know, uh, who are the cornerstones of the company as far as talent is concerned, and I think that they put these guys in certain situations, and they work with them in certain ways that I think they're very happy. So, I don't see them going anywhere, and I do think they have a huge upside. I think they'll be around for quite some time, and I hope that they continue to gain popularity, because if they are super over and we're super over, then half the work is done before we even get to the ring. So, that's what I hope.
Now, this lockdown is pretty much screwing over all independent companies for the immediate future. but I had a fan that wanted me to ask you, out of all the recently released WWE talent, which ones would stand out to you as potential wrestlers that you might want to use in PCW Ultra in the future?
Ooh, um, you don't happen to have the list, do you?
Uh,
I don't
I only
remember
know
any.
it half. I know Gallows was on there,
Yeah, we'd love to use the Bullet
Anderson,
Club. Yeah,
uh,
the Bullet Club guys, Gallows and Anderson, they'd be great.
Kurt
Yeah,
Angle was on there.
it's going to be hard because I really feel bad. Well, I don't feel bad for those guys because they all made a bunch of money. So I mean, but I do feel a little bad for them because typically when you get off television, you have that time where you can make money on the indies. They're basically getting cold. They're put on the shelf right after their TV. So I think there's gonna be some guys that understand the indies and they're gonna get it and they're gonna price themselves the right way. But I think there's gonna be a few guys that price themselves out of the game. I don't know. Maybe when we come back, they're gonna be super hot to see those guys. But I think the fans are gonna be super hot to see anybody when we come back. So I think it's gonna be a strange spot. Um, for those guys. I think that they should be more than happy to be included, and I think that they should just jump out and hit the ground running when we all are all starting to run together and make good partnerships with a lot of good companies, and we would love to use anybody that's going to draw us money. That's the name of the game. It's a business. So if you can draw us money, we would love to use you. If your price translates to a profit for us, then we would love to use you because that keeps us going. We're not in the business of paying more than we get back, for the wrestler, because then we can't live to fight another day.
Now, you had a big fan in Australia contact me, and he wanted to know if you've ever wrestled there or even traveled there on a personal level.
Yes, I wrestled in Australia. I wrestled on a tour there in Adelaide. Actually, I got hurt in Australia and I got surgery in Australia. I blew my ankle out totally, and it's fine now. But at the time, it was a real rough injury, and I was stuck in Australia for almost a month. So yeah, I didn't get to see the country the way I wanted to see the country because I was hurt. But I did do a tour there. I believe it was in 2013. So about 7 years ago, something like that, 6 7 years ago.
And this same fan wanted me to ask you if you would ever do a death match in MLW. I guess you had a bit of a hardcore past, definitely in Puerto Rico. Could you see that type of match happening in MLW?
You know, I'm the type of wrestler that I wrestle the types of matches you'd see like Bruiser Brody in, or Terry Funk. Well, maybe not even Terry. I mean, I would do a barbed wire, but I'm not a death match wrestler. I'm not going to cut myself up with razor blades and light tubes and things like that. It's just, to me, that's just, unless the price was worth my flesh. That's not something I'd really be interested in. But I would do barbed wire. I would do steel cages. I would do hardcore matches like wrestling from the 70s and 80s. That's the type of style I prefer, actually, especially the culmination of a feud and things like that. But just death matches for the sake of a death match, I just can't wrap my head around it. I'm not really, I don't really look down on anybody that does it or anything like that. I just can't really wrap my head on it. I like to, do things for a reason. So
And
probably not.
any plans to go back to Japan once all this happens? I mean, you had a name there from your time. I think in 01, you were very successful over in Japan.
I think there's always plans to go back to Japan. It's like, does Japan have plans to bring me back? You know what I mean? So I would definitely go back there. I would love to go back there at least one more time. Um, I used to spend like a couple weeks at a time in the country, and I really like that. The spot I had before was, not not an office spot, but definitely an affiliate where I would help out the office and do multiple things in the States with them. So I had the luxury of staying there for longer periods of time. And I like that because I'm a traveler, and that's one of the things I love about the wrestling business. So I got to, like, if I had a match on a Friday or something, I would come in like on a Monday, and if I finished my matches on a Saturday or Sunday, I would leave probably the next Friday or Saturday. So I would stay in town or stay in the country for as long as I could. So I do miss that, and I'll go back there, on my own dime. But it sure is nice when somebody brings you there.
Now, I noticed the picture of you online at the Ribera Steakhouse with the NWA heavyweight title. How was the experience going to the steakhouse and getting the jacket?
It was cool. Uh, because of my age, that was a rite of passage for a guy like me. So I remember watching World Class and things like that, and seeing guys with the Rivera jacket and never knowing what it was, and then later on understanding kind of what it was. The first time I went there, I actually got two jackets. The first time I went there, I got a silver one, and then the second time I went there, they gave me a red and a black one, a black and red one, and it was cool. It was cool. The food was okay. I mean, it was like a kind of like a pro wrestling museum, and they have pictures all over it, and it's pretty fun to look at. But it was mostly just a rite of passage, a piece of wrestling history, a good memory for me, just to say I did it. And I don't ever wear my Rivera jacket, but it's nice to have it in the closet and just, say I did it. It's almost like a trophy to guys like us.
Any favorite match from your time over in Japan?
Um, yeah, I would say I had a title for title match in the main event in Korakuen Hall that I actually won. That was a great memory for me. To wrestle in a place that, the Americans and the gaijin, like Dynamite Kid and Bruiser Brody and Stan Hansen, just to be in a place in the halls that housed, Dynamite Kid versus Tiger Mask. I mean, things like that. It was just a great piece of history, a great memory for me because of all the history. So yeah, that match, having a featured main event match in that building, and the press and the pomp and circumstance, and I had Steve Carino was cornering me, and it was a really great memory for me. Everything else was kind of so, pretty good here, pretty good there. My style, for me, I much prefer wrestling Puerto Rico. It's just, to me, that style of wrestling. It's hot, it's bloody, it's crazy and passionate, and that's the style I like to work. I wrestled a lot in Japan with Masato Tanaka, and he's fantastic. He's just way better than I am. So he's a wrestler's wrestler, and I'm more of a character. I'm a gimmick. I do a wild style of wrestling. So, a guy like Tanaka is super fast, and I don't think he was getting my best matches, and I don't think I was getting his best matches. So, if I ever do go back there, I would definitely like to be there for a longer program and have a big payoff. And I'm the dummy that wants to go to Japan and wrestle American style. It's just I'm not a fan of the Japanese style. It doesn't gel with me. As far as I don't like working that style. I don't think
And I've
punching each other over and over and over back and forth is like, okay, whatever.
I've seen the pictures of you and the Great Muda in PCW Ultra. What was it like bringing him over?
Um, Absolute dream come true. There's I really don't have anybody in the wrestling business that I get, like, that I mark out for. But Muda's definitely one of them. He was somebody that I've hung out with Terry Funk and Hanson and Sullivan and all these guys and everything, and that's really cool. But I was in awe of Muda. Like, Muda is just, he's incredible. Um, So it was really cool. It was amazing working with him. It was amazing giving him direction. Like, are you crazy? Um, we did a seminar the next day. Um, it was fun hanging out with him and working with him. And then on his final day, he took me to Knott's Berry Farm and rode roller coasters with me all day and stuff like that. His treat as a thank you to me for taking care of him and being a stand-up gentleman for, as far as business is concerned. And that was a great memory. It was, I mean, you know, you hear me say that a lot, great memories. I mean, that's what wrestling is. Like, a lot of guys are very concerned with this big payoff. And it's like, when I first broke in, Dave Johnson told me that uh, the great Malenko told him, "There's no jewel at the end of the journey. The journey's the jewel." And I believe that, and I subscribe to that theory. And you know, I think along the way, I've just had so many incredible memories. And I think the best part is as they're happening, I I knew they were special. So I was able to enjoy them as they were happening. I wasn't always waiting for something to happen, you know. So as things have happened in my career, I've been able to kind of sit into them and just, you know, enjoy them and experience them. And I hope to have a lot more, you know.
And you brought up Terry Funk. That's another one of the massive names that you fought in PCW Ultra. How was that experience? I understand there was supposed to be actually more of it, but due to some unfortunate circumstances, it didn't happen.
Yeah. You know, Terry Funk is, I mean, a dream come true. Like, to speak with Terry just about the business is incredible. His father taught him, and then his father, Dory Funk Sr., obviously taught Eddie Graham, and then Eddie Graham taught Kevin Sullivan, and Kevin Sullivan taught me. So when I speak to Terry, the concepts that I know are the concepts his father taught him that trickled all the way down to me. I'm not trying to say I know as much as them or anything like that. All I'm saying is basically we speak the same language because his father was the architect of this type of what we do today. So that was incredible. Working with Terry Funk, I mean, come on, like it's just to be in a ring and see Terry Funk there selling for you. I mean, it's amazing. Something that I never thought I would be a part of. Something. I mean, I saw Terry Funk when I was a kid, you know, and and he was somebody that I just was terrified of. I remember when he came back years later, which to most people this is years ago, but I remember when he came back at Clash of the Champions and beat up Flair and pile drove him on the table and just I have so many great wrestling memories of Terry Funk as a fan. To be in the ring with him was just, I mean, it was as incredible as it seems.
Now, there was a fan question that wanted to know the status of Carlina Gore.
She was uh she moved with her fiance to Florida, and it did not gel with her. So she has since moved back to Seattle or the Washington area. So you know she's back on the West Coast. So you know she's somebody that I really like, professionally and personally. She's always been a hard worker. Um, no ego at all. Um, Comes with her working boots on, looks like $1 million. So I would love to have her back in PCW Ultra. You know, if the circumstances are right, the time is right, in whatever capacity. She used to be with War Beast. You know, maybe that could happen, maybe something else. But she's somebody that is family to us.
And of course, being from Canada, there were some fans that wanted me to ask you about working with the Hart Foundation.
Working with the Heart Foundation was fun. You know, I think that when Teddy is on, he's on. But I think when Teddy's off, he's off. So, you know, I just hope that he gets his life together. I really do like Teddy Hart. I think he's a great guy. He's I mean, I enjoy him. I enjoy hanging around with him. I think Brian Pillman Jr. is a really good up and coming kid who has a lot of upside and a lot of potential. And I think Davey Boy is a stud. I mean, Davey Boy is just, I mean, that, I mean, what can you know, I think the only thing that Davey Boy, could use work on is a promo. And I could use work on a lot of stuff. So I'm not trying to act like I'm better than Davey Boy at all. I'm just saying I think that's the only thing he kind of lacks. I think his promo's decent, but I think if he had a killer promo, there'd be no stopping him. He looks like $1,000,000. He's tall. He's well built. He's incredibly proficient in the ring. He's a shooter. He's a gentleman. He's a professional. But he's a stud, man. I love watching him work. I don't like to be on the receiving end of his stuff because it is in there. But Davey Boy is he's somebody that I really respect a lot.
Do you see him being in MLW long term? It seems like he's going to be someone that maybe when his contract expires, he might get some big offers. I know they put his father in the Hall of Fame. He was supposed to be the one inducting his father, but I know he likes his freedom.
Yeah, I mean, I think that anybody that has a lineage to pro wrestling history, especially in the way that he does, I think there's always that chance that they're going to end up going mostly to the WWE. But I don't know. He seems really happy where he's at. I can't speak for him, that's for sure, and I don't have any sort of insider information or anything. But I don't know if he did go, I'd be sad to see him leave just because I like him so much as a person. But I'd be happy for him if that was his choice and he was doing, that for him and his family. And, but yeah, I mean, I don't see that as something odd. I mean, I think that's a definite possibility. I think somebody like him, he's such a blue chip athlete. I think somebody like him could go anywhere. I think you could see him anywhere, because he's somebody that is very sought after. And I think MLW is incredibly lucky to have him on the roster.
For his promos, I think he should do all of his promos in the Dynamite Kid impression, personally.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, in this day and age, it's like people need some sort of even off the wall weird gimmicks work and stuff. But yeah, I mean, he could easily play somebody a little nutty. He's got those intense eyes that every once in a while I'd be in the ring with him and I would joke with him. I'd say, man, you got me scared there for a second. Like, he doesn't like to be chopped. And I found that out the hard way. I chopped him really hard and he chopped me back way harder. So I didn't, I chopped him again really hard because I didn't want to, look like a bitch. And then he chopped me again way harder. And yeah, so I just didn't chop him anymore. But after the match, I went over to him, you don't like chops, do you? He's like, no. But he's a great guy. And he's somebody that he'll twist you up and he'll rip your head off if you give him the chance. You know what I mean? He's somebody that's incredibly dangerous. He's a throwback to the days where professional wrestlers were incredibly dangerous, much like yourself, so he's a guy like that is incredibly proficient in the ring.
And this was another fan question. I don't know if you've commented on this, but it has to do with UFC. George Masvidal winning the baddest motherfucker title. They wanted to know what your opinion was to have like a BMF pro wrestling style title used in MMA.
Yeah, I think stuff like that's silly. Like I like to stick to real championships. I don't like having a lot of championships. I like the focus to be on a few belts. I think that if you have, just like I have my company, I have a heavyweight, I have a light heavyweight, a tag team, and a woman's belt. I think that's more than enough to focus for a roster to focus on. I mean, if you start getting multiple hours of television like the WWE and you've got a roster of, hundreds of people, well, I don't know, maybe you need more, but I think just that amount of titles is fine. I think silly gimmick titles, and I really hate championships that are odd, like weird colors or spinner belts, or I like the championship to look like a trophy. I like it to emulate boxing. I like it to be a prize. I don't subscribe to the silly belts and the goofiness of all that. And I mean, wrestling does have some goofiness, but I like to try to keep it as realistic and sports-like as possible, and with a hint of danger and some entertainment involved.
The one thing that drives me crazy is when they give like entire teams heavyweight championship belts.
Yeah.
Now, like it takes away how special the belt is when you're like giving it to the Stanley Cup champions. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. I like the champion having a reign. I hate the belts flip flopping and all that, but I mean, this is just stuff old school guys gripe about. But I'm in on that. I don't like all that stuff either.
Is that a boxing poster you have behind you?
Oh, it's Raging Bull.
Oh, Raging Bull. What do you think about Mike Tyson coming back for exhibition fights? Maybe he's going to fight Holyfield, and also I guess he's going to be appearing for AEW coming up.
I think Mike Tyson fighting in exhibition fights is great. It's money. People want to see it. Um, I don't think that Mike Tyson should compete with anybody right now um, who is, in the upper echelon of the heavyweight division. I think we've seen his best minute and a half of him sparring. I think he's going to look good on that camera no matter what. I feel like nobody should let Evander Holyfield anywhere near a boxing ring. I feel really, really sorry for him. He's somebody that has way more heart than he has brains. I think he will get hurt if he gets back in the ring. I'd like to see Tyson in an exhibition, something where it's maybe not even full speed, something. But I mean, I don't know I certainly don't think he needs the money. If he wants to do it for his fans and it's something lighthearted and it's something where we can see him, and that's cool, I guess. But I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be buying pay-per-views of Tyson versus Holyfield or anything like that, to be honest.
And you had a fan question that wanted to know what your legitimate ethnic background is.
I'm Sicilian, and I have parts of my family from Libya, but I'm Sicilian.
Do you have any favorite wrestlers that you like to watch today?
You know, I don't really watch wrestling. When I'm doing my company, when I'm, working with my company, I keep kind of a pulse on, who's got buzz, and then I'll kind of watch guys. I really used to like to watch Shane Strickland a lot, when he was working for me, but I haven't watched any of the next stuff that he's done. If I watch wrestling, I flip on YouTube and I watch older stuff, and it's mainly Bruiser Brody, Terry Funk. I just like that stuff. I'm starting to believe that I'm not a fan of watching professional wrestling as much as I'm a fan of Bruiser Brody. you know, I really love his style and how scary he was and how believable he was. And I love the way Terry Funk sold, and I love the promos and how outlandish he was. And, it's like, but today I just don't really like the way the business, I just don't really like where it's at. I mean, Jacob Fatu, I love to watch. He's somebody that pops me. If I see him do stuff, I'm like, wow, that's great. And, guys that I'm, impressed with on the scene, Hammerstone and Fatu and Shane Strickland and guys like that. But I don't really, like on my downtime since all of this has happened, I haven't watched wrestling at all. And I probably haven't watched it for, a couple years before. I watch my own stuff as a playback to, look at cameras and things like that, or I'll watch MLW, to see how things came off. But once you're in the business for so long, you watch with a completely different eye. You watch for, how the stuff, transpires, how it translates to camera. It's kind of hard to watch as a fan when you see all the mechanics, you see the curtain pulled back so far. It's hard to get lost in it. And when you do get lost in it, it's special. That piece of talent is really good if they can get you. So yeah, if I do watch stuff, I'm not because you're right in front of me, but I watch your shoot interviews. That's what I mainly watch about wrestling is information. Trying to learn. I like some of the road stories here and there, but I mainly like when guys talk about psychology and they talk about old territories and they talk about, other wrestlers that, don't have a lot of data on them and things like that. I'm more of a student of the game, an obsessive of like the ins and outs of it all, not so much the application of it, but the how you get there is more what I'm a fan of.
So does that mean that you never watched the John Cena versus the Fiend WrestleMania match?
Nah, I haven't watched a WrestleMania, and I probably haven't legit watched WrestleMania from start to finish since this is going to be embarrassing, but since probably WrestleMania 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I just don't. Yeah, I was a huge Macho Man fan, so I mean, whatever was the tournament one where he lost. I remember I was a kid, I was super hot. And then yeah, so I mean, I think 6. I watched 6 with the Warrior and Hogan. I watched that one. But I mean, it's been a long time. I probably watched something with Stone Cold or something like that years later, because I actually really enjoy Stone Cold Steve Austin. Out of the Attitude Era, out of all of those guys, he was the one that I just thought was just top to bottom, just had everything. I mean, people talk about The Rock and this and that, but I was never really a fan of The Rock. I was definitely a fan of Stone Cold Steve Austin, though.
And you mentioned Alex Hammerstone. He's the PCW Ultra Heavyweight Champion. Any thoughts on him? Obviously, you work with him in MLW as well.
Yeah, he's just the hardest worker in the room. I mean, I met Hammerstone years ago when I used to promote shows in Arizona, and he was a young kid. He was a little buff, but he was super young, short hair, and he was just always around. And then started seeing him on shows. I ended up getting him over on one of the first couple PCW shows, I think the second or third one, something like that. And he showed up with his working boots ever since, so he's been a mainstay with us. He's a really hard worker. He's one of the family. And he's just somebody that if you tell him something, he actually absorbs it, and he actually takes the advice and then applies it. It's really strange. You would think that, that would happen more, but he's just somebody that you can actually give direction, and he listens and he applies it. And it's astounding in this day and age. But, he's somebody that's going to make a lot of money in this business, providing there is a business. And, yeah, he's somebody that's going to make a lot of money. He looks like $1 zillion. He's a hard worker. He doesn't talk much in the locker room. He's all business. He does what he has to do. He doesn't go out and party. He doesn't, he's just all about being a wrestler, making his money, going home safe. And he's on the job 24/7 in the gym. He understands his job is in the gym. He understands it's in the kitchen. He understands it's in the ring. He's gotten better at promos, which he was already good at. So yeah, he's somebody that I have to really respect somebody to put my belt on him. And he's somebody that I feel not only do I respect him, but I feel like he's earned it. He's really, really earned it.
And I was there that night covering the event for the Hannibal TV. Ricky Banderas was the one he defeated for the title. Banderas had a long run in PCW. I think you worked with him in Puerto Rico too. Any thoughts on him?
Yeah, he's great. I mean, you look at a guy like Ricky, and the thing that stands out the most is longevity. And that's like a guy like me understands how hard that is. A guy like me understands, and he's done it at a higher level than I have. He was a top guy in Puerto Rico for many years. He ended up being a top guy for Lucha Underground. So he's just somebody that has understood the business in the way of how to stick around, um, and that's something a lot of people don't think about. Guys don't think about 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And I always knew when I broke in, I knew I wanted to be in the professional wrestling business, and I knew that that there was a shelf life on a professional wrestler's career, and I knew that everything else people were doing. There was jobs all over the place. So I made sure I learned how to do every single thing I could possibly learn. And, now I get to apply it. I've had companies before, but PCW Ultra is the largest one I've ever put together with an incredible crew of people. But I get to apply my knowledge all the time, in multiple different ways. And that's a great way to stick around in pro wrestling. When I got on with MLW, that was one of the first things they said. They said, we don't want you just for a wrestler. We know who you are. We know what you do. And that's just it's really nice if you want to stay in this business to have that sort of a value to where you can do multiple different things in the business. You're not a stranger to any aspect of the business. I can be put in any position in a company and I can feel comfortable and I can hit it out of the park. And that's a really valuable thing it's a really valuable thing to be.
And you mentioned you promoted Arizona before. Would you ever consider bringing PCW Ultra to another state like Arizona, which isn't too far away?
Well, so currently we have PCW AZ, which is Arizona, and I've got Dom Vitale out there, who's a great friend of mine, and it's really baby steps. We're slowly, especially now, but before the pandemic, we were slowly maneuvering, trying to gain a crowd there and everything. And he was promoting pretty well. He had, in indie wrestling, it's difficult. So he would get anywhere from 250 to 350 per show, in a really nice spot he had. But we were trying to get some legs underneath that. The vision would be to run the entire West Coast. I don't know how, I don't know how wrestling is going to look when we get back. If this thing just goes away, that's great. But if from now on, for the rest of the time on this planet, if we have to do social distancing and we have to,
Oh, let's hope not.
I would imagine that we're going to get past this. I would imagine that one day there's going to be some normalcy back, to our lives. And if that is the case, then hopefully, we can still, everybody's in a financial position to where, they can continue to do what they do. But you got to think, we might come back and the lighting company might be gone. We might come back and the DJ might be gone. We might, it's the vendors, so this is going to not only affect all of our everyday life. This is not only going to affect our pocketbook. This is going to affect the businesses that we do business with. This is going to affect a lot of stuff. So right now we're just waiting it out, just like everybody else is. I'm not saying anything, no sage advice here. We're just waiting it out like everybody else. And wherever the chips fall, then the opportunity is going to present itself. And when the opportunity presents itself and we understand kind of what we're dealing with, then we'll kind of write our ticket then and see kind of, write our game plan and figure out where we're going to go from there. But the ultimate direction for me was going to be up the West Coast, all the way up into Vancouver. And I had multiple things in place that, we were working on. Mainly, we had a tour that just got canceled, obviously, with Progress from the UK. And it was PCW Ultra, Progress, and Defy. And we were going to start in LA and we were going to end in Portland. And that was going to be, kind of one of our first tries. And unfortunately that got canceled. But hopefully when this all ends, we'll be in the position to try again, and hopefully we'll be successful. And we've been pretty successful so far. We run in a very for we run in a conservative manner, and in a smart manner as best we can, but we also have to offer stuff that nobody else offers. So it's a fine line, but we're going to do our best.
And any favorite match from your time as NWA champion?
Um, yeah, I would, yeah, Ryuji Sai, Yoji Sai, I believe is how you pronounce it, in Korakuen Hall. That was the pinnacle for the NWA run. Obviously for being in Korakuen Hall, main eventing, double title match, winning it. I had a huge magazine spread, photographers everywhere, and that was the one.
Did I don't know how to pronounce it, but the Japanese mafia, did they end up taking you out at all while you were over there?
Yes, the Yakuza. We would always get sponsor dinner, and it would be weird. A lot of times nobody would even be there, so it'd be like you'd get an address, and they'd say, "Okay, sponsor dinner tonight," and then I'd say, "Can I bring a friend?" And they'd say, "Yeah," and I'd bring Steve Carino or whoever else with me, and we just go somewhere, and it would just be us in the restaurant, nobody else, not a soul in the restaurant. And the chef would just come and cook us food. We wouldn't even order. Um, so that would happen, a lot of stuff. And then other times it would just be the boys, and the sponsors would pay for it. And sometimes you'd see somebody, sometimes you wouldn't, but mostly you wouldn't. So, but you'd always get invited to these dinners and stuff like that. So, when I was there, I would always partake because I like to travel, and I like to eat, and I like to, uh, um, uh, indulge in their customs and things like that while I'm there, because it's not home. So I like to see what's what.
What's the most unusual thing you ate over there?
Oh wow, I don't know. Like I would eat it. I'm not scared to eat stuff unless it's organs. But I mean, I've eaten eel and octopus and maybe goat and uh, uh, I don't know, a bunch of squishy things that I wouldn't know what it was. But I'm not like, I don't, a sea urchin and things like that. Like any type of fish, I'll eat. Um, but I'm not. I find it rude to, like, when you go. I mean, if you are gonna throw up if you eat something, I get it. But I mean, if I go somewhere and somebody's treating me, I like to at least try everything, and drink with them and toast with them, and be cordial, and respectful. And most of the time they always invite you back if you're a fun guest, and you partake, because they just want to show you their style of life, and they want to pop you, you know what I mean? So if you turn your nose to it and no 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 to everything, it's like, I don't know. I just like to partake and be respectful and be thankful and grateful for the time, and they don't have to take me out to eat anything, or people don't have to be cool to me. So when they are, especially like the bosses of 01 and things like that, I remember they would always pop when they'd be like, Sheik-san, and they'd give me something, and I'd go, sure. Or they would drink all night, and I'm not a huge drinker, but I would drink with them. I could handle my booze. I'm not a sloppy drunk or anything. um, but because that would be very embarrassing. But I would always go out and drink. Tonight I know we're going out to drink all night, so I would definitely have that in mind and go do it. And yeah, it made a lot of great memories, and it made my time there fun, and it made the people enjoy me and me enjoy them. So it made for a good time, and it probably was uh, main reason why I was invited back a lot, because I was happy to do that. Because
What's
most
this?
business is done at the bar, right? Most
Yeah.
business is done at the bar and the restaurant. And that's what a lot of guys don't get.
Is 01 still around? I think they are to some capacity, but I know there's been some changes.
Yeah, I think that they are barely surviving, and most of those companies are all just kind of a logo, and they are funded by sponsors, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, there I remember when we were there, we were sponsored by a Pachenko house, which is a gambling house, and then I know that, you know, there was something going on where they stopped all that. There was huge fines if you were involved with the Yakuza and stuff like that. I mean, this is all hearsay. I don't know firsthand or anything. But I remember, like, I think New Japan was kind of exempt from it, and they went up real high and stuff like that. But this is just hearsay. I don't know 100%.
And you've mentioned you've been very close with Kevin Sullivan over the years. He taught you a lot of things. Any favorite story about him you could share with us?
Oh, Kevin, there's a million. Kevin is just amazing. He's like my crazy uncle. Um, I remember one time, well, Kevin likes to be super, super early for everything, like incredibly early. And he gets kind of nervous and anxious if he's not at the airport specifically. Like, he likes to be at the airport. If he's got a 12 o'clock flight, he's at the airport at like 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock. He likes to get there very early. And this one day, I forget where we were at, but we were on the road together. You know what? We just did the Cow Palace. We were in San Francisco, and me and him were rooming together, and he nonchalantly told the front desk that he wanted a wake up call, and you know, it just didn't, something about it. It didn't dawn on me, but I kind of knew, but I didn't say anything, but it just seemed like it didn't click with them. And we went back to the room, and I think he had an earlier flight that day than normal. I think we had like a 9 o'clock flight, and he had a 10 o'clock flight and a 7:30 wake up call or something like that. Well, he woke up at like 8:30. And I just remember hearing him screaming, Joey, 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 and he's running through. And I look up, and he's butt ass naked, and he's running back and forth. I hear the shower go on for 5 seconds. I hear it turn off 5 seconds later, and he's running. But I mean, that's off the top of my head. Seeing the devil running around your hotel room butt ass naked was pretty funny.
Now, for people that want to follow you on social media, I know you have it all. If you want to let us know where people can look you up.
Sure. It's at Josef Samael. That's Josef, as in Frank, Samael. That's at Josef Samael on Twitter, at Josef Samael on Instagram, and then Facebook is whatever. You can find me there somewhere. I'm sure. I can't remember the address right now. And then my website is allviolenceislegal.com. And my Pro Wrestling Tees store is prowrestlingtees.com/warbeast.
And you do have some cool shirts on there. I've seen some of the designs. This shirt you're wearing now, though, that's not a Warbeast shirt, is it?
No, it's Church of the Cosmic Skull.
Is that a band?
Yeah, they're killer.
Yeah, you have quite a wide variety of musical taste, don't you?
Yeah, I love music. It was like music and wrestling when I was a kid. Like, and I submerged myself more in the psychology of wrestling, but I'm more of a fan of music, where I go to live shows all the time, and I travel for them. I travel to Europe to see shows and wherever, really. I love going to see live music, which I hope happens again.
What's the furthest you've traveled for a show?
Well, there's a band. It's my absolute favorite band. Is a band called Clutch, and me and my wife were fortunate enough to become good friends with them. So we go see them live all the time, and we'll go see them. We've seen them in Ireland like 4 times. We've seen them in Switzerland. We've seen them in pretty much England, Amsterdam. I mean, all over Europe and stuff like that. But I think Europe is the furthest we've gone.
And of course, weed, I think it's legal in California, right? It's legal in Canada. I remember seeing you a few years ago at a PCW Ultra show that I covered with like the thickest blunts ever as you were walking out at the end of the night.
Yeah, I like.
Was that a special occasion, or are you smoking those every day?
No. I after the PCW show, it's like I don't get stressed out. I'm a really chill guy, but that day is hard. Like it's a hard day for me. And oh man, after that show, I can't even drive home after the show. Like my wife has to drive me home. It's so draining because that show's so large and there's so many pieces of it. And I'm a bit of a control freak. So I tend to micromanage a lot of stuff and get my hand in everything because I want it to be perfect. Kevin Sullivan one time said, he said he knew that my show was going to be successful because he saw me measuring the seats with a tape measure. Like I'm pretty
Oh,
nuts.
wow.
Yeah, I mean I measure like from like I'm crazy. Like I like things. I mean I'm sure you notice the setup is like it's like geometry. Like everything is absolutely perfect there.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah. So after that show, I'm just beat. So yeah, I like to smoke after I'm done because I'm not a big drinker. Like I'll drink here and there, and but I'm not a big drinker. I do like to smoke. But every night, I don't smoke a giant blunt at home. Like I'll smoke a little bit here or there. I'll eat an edible or something like that. But I'm pretty chill. Like I'm a pretty cheap date. Like I don't go nuts every day. I'm not a big druggie or nothing like that. I just
Yeah.
smoke a little here and there when I'm unwinding at night, watching some TV or something, like a little bowl or something. Nothing crazy.
I figured that was a stress reliever, but I was impressed with the size of that. That was definitely the biggest one I've ever seen in person.
Excellent.
Well, thanks a lot for catching up with us. I'm glad to see that you're doing well. PCW is running wild, and obviously um, MLW is doing great for you. Is there anything you'd like to let the fans know as we close off here?
Oh, just thank you so much for the support. A lot of fans have been purchasing merch, and it's been great. Like it's like I haven't even been gone. Like it's really cool that everybody's been supporting. Don't forget about us. Come out. Definitely know that first show that we run back, like we're gonna need everybody's support to come to that show. I mean, we're gonna try to build again from the bottom up. So as long as the fans keep supporting us, we'll be here. I mean, we're incredibly grateful for them, and we love being able to do this for a living. We love being able to bring entertainment. Too bad we can't bring it now when everybody needs it, but we would definitely love to come back super strong. So just don't forget about us and continue to support, and we'll be here as long as you'll have us.
And the last question I'll ask you, I know somewhat of the answer to this, but you've got War Beast in PCW Ultra and the Contra unit in MLW. Some of the members are the same, but how would you say those two factions are different?
Well, War Beast is my brainchild. So War Beast is something I've created, and it's a nod to Kevin Sullivan, who's my mentor. And the the business behind it all was that I would become Kevin one day, where I wouldn't have to wrestle, and I can be the figurehead, the Kevin Sullivan, the Gary Hart of it all. And I would do that by way of being a Sheik and Brody and Kevin Sullivan and a Maniac, and just having this carnage with these crazy, wacky characters. And it's got a more of an occult setting. Obviously, a nod to Kevin Sullivan. Obviously, a nod to the music I listen to and the things I like and stuff like that. And then Contra Unit was the brainchild of Court Bauer, and he basically cast me like a movie villain. So I wrapped my head around the character when I got it, and tried to sink my teeth in it the best I could, and then did it in my style. And for whatever reason, it worked out perfectly for me and for Court. So yeah, so I guess Contra Unit is more like a underground militia crime syndicate that is very shrouded. You don't really know where it's going, where it's coming from, who's in it, what it actually is. There's a lot of mystery, and I really love that because when you read a book and somebody sees the movie, when somebody sees a movie, you'll always get somebody that says, "Oh, did you read the book?" And the book's so much better. And the reason why they say that is because they put up the plot points, and then your brain basically colors it all in, right? So I think having mystery with the gimmick and the characters, the fans are able to kind of make up their own mind and actually interpret it the way that they think. So they pretty much tailor fit it in their head of how they want it to be or what they think it's going to be. And I think that's a really cool thing, because so much professional wrestling is just right on the nose, and it's just given to you. And I really like the mystery of it all. So Contra Unit is very mysterious, equally, if not more, diabolical. And War Beast is much more of a cult, and it's much more of a Manson meets Kevin Sullivan meets the if the Dungeon of Doom was cool, the Dungeon of Doom.
Well, the Dungeon of Doom was underrated, I think. As a
Yeah,
kid, I liked it. I don't know.
yeah,
But
it's a bit silly when you look back at it, and Kevin hates it, but I really like the idea of it. I like the idea of the multiple monster team with all these crazies that don't really fit, but kind of together they all fit. Like at one time it was me, Kevin, Fatu, Brody King, and Carlina Gore. It was, oh, and we also had a lawyer. We had MK, who was our legal, and he would, I mean, we had every tentacle on the beast. It was a really, really cool gimmick that people, I mean, Carlina Gore would come out and summons us, and she'd blow this big fireball like Gene Simmons from Kiss, and it was really cool. It still is really cool, but we've turned into the Road Warriors, where we're just this babyface tag team that the people have just attached to. We're like their home team. So like these teams will come in and they're like, oh, Warbeast is going to kill them. So it's really turned into this incredible, we're almost like the home football team, like we're like the Raiders, and they live and die by us, and it's a really, really cool spot to have. And it's fun for sure.
you're the only person I've ever seen get a babyface pop off the camel clutch. And it
Well,
was a
that's
huge pop that night. I think that was the one you did a couple years ago. I witnessed that, and it's like, what world am I living in here?
Yeah, we've spun it upside down over there. Like it's what we did was we ended up getting over so huge that they turned us babyface, and we weren't going to change our style because that's what they liked. So we just kept our style the same way, and we kept our finishers, and we kept everything that we did. I mean, there'll be spots where we're stabbing each other in the face with spikes, and these people are losing their minds, and it's a great thing, man. It's a great thing to go to work and do this sort of thing for a living. It's incredible. I'm just extremely grateful and fortunate.
Well, we were going to have you up here for Great North Wrestling in August, but unfortunately that show got canceled due to this. But hopefully one of these days, the fans up in this area of Canada will get to see you perform. So let's hope this ends by next year and things can get cooking again. And thanks again for all your time. I really appreciate it. Best of luck to you.
Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate the platform, and I'll love to come down there as soon as it happens. As soon as we're ready to do it, man, that it'll be my pleasure.
Anything to say to the Great North Wrestling fans about witnessing the almighty Sheik, Josef Samael, coming up?
We're going to bring danger back into professional wrestling. They're in for a treat, a lot of bloodlust and violence.
Good.